Support for Docs Outside the Box comes from Set for Life Insurance. Set for Life means set for less. Their clients get access to the largest portfolio of discounts and unisex rates available nationwide. Check them out at setforlifeinsurance.com and tell them Dr. Darko sent you.
Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry, you're getting real live insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Renee Darko.
So what's good, everyone? This is Dr. Nee, host of Docs Outside the Box. I got another special guest. It's Dr. Renee, my wife. Renee, what's good? How you doing?
Hey, Docs Outside the Box Nation.
So we're recording this right as we are doing sleep training with our son. So we're trying to keep our voices down because we just put him to bed. How do you think it's going?
So far so good. Hopefully he stays asleep.
Yeah, this is day 2. We got him out of the bed initially, and then he came back in the bed because of my wife.
Oh, I don't think so.
Right?
I don't think so.
Well, it wasn't because of me.
Yeah, it was because of you.
All right, well, we could discuss this on another episode. But we are on this show because so many people have asked for you. So many people have written emails, sent me messages on Instagram, on Facebook. Even guests who have come on the show, like, hey, I've listened to your show. When are you going to have more of your wife? And I'm like, wait, what? Am I chopped liver? What's the deal? So,
Thunder stolen.
Right. So I said, okay, listen, let's get you on the show. Let's learn more about you. Obviously, you're a lot more energetic. You bring the fire, and people want to learn more about you. So,
all right. Well, let's do this.
Let's do this. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today. We're going to talk about, just us and specifically, how it relates to how we work together, and where you are from. And then we're going to take it into you being a mother and some of the terminology that you've kind of made up. But, I think kind of helps you kind of be more comfortable with your new role as a triple threat now. So I won't describe that. I'll let you kind of describe that later on. But let's learn a little bit more about you. Let's get the audience to know about you. So tell us where you were born, where you're raised, all of that.
Well, first I'm trying to think, what's the triple threat? I don't know what the triple threat is, but I guess we'll get into that. But I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, BK.
This is pre-gentrification, Brooklyn, right?
Well, where I'm from in Brooklyn has not been gentrified yet.
I had Dara Cass on the show, and I had to make sure she clarified that because there's a difference.
There is a difference. I'm from East New York, and we still got a ways to go before gentrification happens. So, that's another story. But I'm originally from East New York, Brooklyn. My parents are actually from Haiti. And they came here in the early 1970s. I pretty much had a normal childhood. Went to private school pretty much all my life. Catholic school. I was valedictorian of my preschool class.
You're really holding on to that, huh?
I really am. Okay. That's a great accomplishment. And let's see. What else? I don't know. What else do you want to know?
I think what's really fascinating is when we started dating and we realized how close in proximity we grew up to each other, because you grew up in East New York, which is probably, I think the last time we checked was about 15 minutes from where I grew up.
Pretty much.
Initially in Queens, Lefrak City.
Yeah.
New York, right near Shea Stadium, LaGuardia Airport, and so forth.
Yeah, it was really close because where I lived in East New York, you could actually walk to Queens. And so by the time we walked to Queens, actually, we probably were like maybe even a 10-minute drive from your house.
But people who aren't familiar with New York will oftentimes say, "Oh, it's amazing, like how you guys never ran into each other." I'm like, but New York is like millions of people. Like, there's absolutely no way that we would.
Well, that's not necessarily true because we do have a question of whether or not we've ever not necessarily run into each other, but ever been in the same place at the same time because of track. We were both on the track team.
Yes.
In high school.
Yeah, I was a superstar. You were.
Okay. Moving on.
Well, I mean, that was the truth, though.
I don't know if you were a superstar, but you should see his face right now.
All right. Well, that's another show also.
But yeah, we could have been in the same place at the same time because there are certain track meets that, regardless of whether you were in Queens, New York, or in Brooklyn, New York, or when you finally moved to Irvington because you were in high school in Irvington, that potentially we could have been at the same track meets.
It's possible.
Yep.
It's possible. Me winning the gold medals or my team winning the gold medals.
I'm not going to say all that.
Well, we did, though. That's the truth, though.
I guess you were
that's
a good
fact.
team.
We were. Yes, we were. And then from there, you went to, Pace University?
Yeah, I went to Pace University for undergrad, and then eventually did a postbac, actually, at Hunter College, Midtown, and then went off to medical school and met this fine young thing.
We discussed how we dated on another episode. Y'all gonna have to go back for that. So let's get to the nitty gritty. When did you decide that you wanted to be a doctor? When did the thoughts of becoming a physician?
Oh, I was like 3.
3.
Yeah, I was 3.
Dr. McStuffins didn't exist back then.
No,
so
there
how
was
at the
no.
age of 3 did you know you wanted to be a doctor? Come on, let's get real.
Well, something a lot of people don't know about me is actually, about me, but my parents actually went to medical school. Now, my parents actually did not get to finish medical school. They were both from Haiti. They went to medical school in Spain, and there were some financial issues that prohibited them from finishing. So they actually never completed a medical education. But they must have shared this with me very early on in my life. The other thing is obviously watching TV. You see a lot of doctors on TV. The earliest doctor that I can remember, I'm really dating myself right now. I really shouldn't do this, but the earliest doctor I remember is Trapper John, M.D.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Remember that show? Yeah.
It had like different colors to the intro, right?
I don't remember. But I just remember Trapper John, M.D. being on TV and it being a very popular show. I must have watched it. I don't remember any episodes from it, but I must have watched it because somewhere in the back of my mind, it's there. Maybe with hypnosis, I can get it out. So, Dr. Manny, if you're listening. No, I never watched MASH.
You know what's funny, though, is like in my house, like when MASH came on, I don't know if the audience listened.
You just listen to the theme music and then you turn the channel to the
so
Muppets.
We used to have the old school TV that you had to get up and turn the knob and it made this ga 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 as you changed the channel. And we knew, like, whenever in my house, MASH came on Fox 5, which was the news came on at 10 o'clock on the Fox channels, right? On the regular NBC, ABC,
regular TV.
CBS. It came on 11 o'clock, but the
we
news
didn't have
came on at
cable.
10. And then when the news finished, then MASH came on, and we just knew. Ga, 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 ga. I don't think we ever even finished the theme song.
Yeah.
Nobody watched MASH. But then it's so funny how, like, so many people who are doctors now, or even the old, doctors who are, before our generation, they watched MASH. But me, like, people are like, oh, do you remember Hawkeye? I'm like, I don't even know who you're talking about.
Yeah, me
I just
either.
remember the theme song. I didn't even make it past the theme song, and I was trying to get to Arsenio Hall or somebody,
Oh, even in the earlier days, you just turned it to the Muppets on Channel 2, actually.
Right.
So, but yeah, I didn't watch MASH. But I think that planted a seed in my head, between my parents, being in medical school, watching Trapper John, MD. And also, I was never afraid to go to the doctor. I was the kind of kid that when I was getting my blood drawn or if I was getting a shot and they say, okay, turn away, I'd be like, nah, let me see what you're doing. And I would actually watch them take my blood or watch them give me a shot. Like I wasn't the screaming, kid in the office.
Let's hear the story of your parents. Why didn't they finish? Because, well, are you willing to talk about that on the show?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's not a secret.
I mean, that's what we do on Docs Outside the Box.
So my mom actually left Haiti to go to Spain for medical school the year before my dad left. And my mom was actually, her life, I guess, at that point was being financed by her mother and her stepfather, mostly her stepfather. Because another thing that a lot of people actually don't know about me is that my grandmother on my mother's side actually never went to school. So she actually never learned to read and write. However, she was an entrepreneur and owned her own, bakery in Haiti. And she did okay. I mean, for what you could do for yourself as an entrepreneur in Haiti. And however, my mom's stepfather was an attorney, but he also had a lot of ingenuity. He would make his own soap, and he was kind of like an inventor. But anyway, he eventually died while my mom was in medical school, and so the money pretty much stopped because my mom had younger siblings. And they basically could not make ends meet to allow my mom to go to medical school anymore. Well, by that time, my father obviously was in Spain already. They had my brother and my sister. And now you have, one person in med school, one person not in med school, and you have two toddlers. And it's like, okay, well, what do you do? So my mom ended up coming to the United States. My father for a while was with my brother and sister, eventually sent my brother and sister to Haiti to be with my grandparents. And then my father was to stay in Spain and complete his medical education. But when he realized that his family was literally dispersed all over the world, he decided to drop out. And despite my mother's wishes, he decided to drop out. And came to the United States and literally surprised my mother. He didn't tell my mother that he was leaving because my mom really wanted him to stay in school. But that's the story of Fred and Marie. And they eventually went back to college in the United States and both became lab technologists and very successfully raised their kids. And here we are.
Do you ever feel, or do you think maybe looking back, there's a little guilt that you may have, or do you ever feel like, even right now as a physician, do you feel like survivor's guilt? Like I became a physician and they didn't? Or kind of just you felt like you kind of finished their journey?
Yeah, that's more like it. I feel like I finished their journey. I can't say that that's exactly why I became a physician. I think it just ended up that way. But in a way, yeah, my mom says that a lot. She's like, "Oh, you followed in many ways. I followed my mother's footsteps." So she'll say that a lot. So in a way, I don't feel like survivor's guilt so much, more than I feel like I just kind of completed something that they really wanted to. And sometimes I think, especially having a child now, like I understand, you may not necessarily accomplish something yourself, but if you can see your child accomplish it, I mean, what a great feeling, that must be.
Yeah,
so.
I definitely am starting to feel that way now that, we have our son. Mm-hmm. It was all about just the individual accomplishments that I can get, or what I'm sure in some regards you felt the same way.
Yeah.
You've become an OB doc, a very well-trained OB doc.
And surprisingly, that's what my mom wanted to do.
Right.
I didn't know that at the time that I became an OB.
Right.
So,
so you've become a great OB doc. But talk to us about this, what your personality was like in OB residency and what do you think about it? Because I think a lot of people don't really understand about what happened your first year and then kind of how.
You're making me spill all the tea.
Yeah, we need to know. That's what we do on the show.
All the tea. So,
this is like the
man,
Breakfast
I'm
Club
like,
for doctors.
This is more than the Breakfast Club. This is like therapy.
Therapy for doctors.
Therapy for doctors. Well, I guess I'm putting all of the stuff out that people don't really know about me. So another thing that people don't know about me is that I actually quit my first year of residency. I put in a resignation in about March. I think it was March 31st, if I'm not mistaken. I remember that day.
That usually and let's take a break, because there's pre-meds, there's medical students.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen usually, right?
No, that doesn't happen.
Usually it's the opposite way. Like,
they kick you out.
The program is telling you either we're not going to renew your contract, we don't want you to come back, or you just flat out, you're done.
Yeah.
So I'm sure for you to come back and just be like, yeah, I'm not, at the end of the year, I'm not resigning, or I don't plan on finishing the rest of my career here.
Correct. Ooh. Yeah. And
Shots fired.
Shots fired.
So why was that? Why'd you decide to do that?
Well, the first year of residency,
you just
I had
too much. What was going on?
That was definitely not it. The first year of residency,
I'll edit that out.
First year of residency was tough for me. It really was. I don't know if it was a combination of that. I had already been out in the workforce before I went to medical school, and just maybe the climate of the program. So what I mean by having been out in the workforce is that, I was used to working and not being necessarily told what to do. We'll say it very nicely. Told what to do every second of the day.
That's okay. We can change the... we can change this from a clean episode to like explicit, so you could just you can get as real as you want to get.
Well, it's just that that first year of residency, depending on where you are, right? Every program is different, but depending on where you are and the personalities that are in the residency program, it can be very tough, almost hazing like, if you will. And so it was, I won't say it was quite a hazing, but it was on the cusp.
Look, why don't you stop talking around it? Let's ask some specific questions.
Yes.
That's what we do on this show. So, like, give us some examples. Like, what was going on that caused you to be like, yo, this ain't right. Like, I can't deal with this.
So, for example, I'd come in around, 5 a.m. And, my days lasted from 5 a.m. to usually about 6 p.m. And there were days on end that I would literally go without eating for 13 hours. And this is not a lie. And part of the reason that I went without eating was because I wasn't necessarily allowed to eat. So, it was, hey, I'd like to go grab something in the cafeteria really quickly. And it was like, nope, you have another patient. Nope, you have to sit here and watch this strip. Nope, you have to, do whatever, to the point where when I complained, I was told, just put snacks in your pocket. And I'm like, well, a person cannot survive on granola bars all day long. This is a 4-year residency. If I survived on granola bars, all day long, like what would happen to my health? And so for me, it was, it was a very psychological type of, just hazing that I didn't appreciate. And at the time, I just felt like this is not what I signed up for. I signed up for a tough residency. I didn't have a problem with the work. The problem was that I felt almost as if I was dehumanized. And that to me was a huge issue. Because I never, ever want to feel dehumanized. I don't think anybody does. And so I decided that I was going to leave. But then the tables turned. Now, as I said, I decided that I was going to leave and put in my resignation at the end of March. So that left me about April, May, June to complete that first year. So even though I quit, I had to complete my contract for the year. Well, an amazing thing happened when I put in my resignation, and that was my senior residents literally left me alone. They stopped tasing me. They literally, their interest in me completely dropped. It was literally just do your work, whatever. And so at that point, I was able to eat, use the bathroom like a normal person. I was literally able to regain my humanity, and I was happier. I was actually much happier. And one of my mentors now, she was an attending at the time. That's where I met her, was in residency. She pulls me aside one day as I'm literally pushing this huge, heavy ultrasound to go and scan a patient. She says, "Volney, you look a lot happier now." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Everybody leaves me alone. Nobody bothers me anymore." And she goes, "Wow." She goes, "Do you consider, would you consider staying?" At the time, I was like, "No, I'm still leaving, because if I recommit, then they'll recommit to my hazing." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to stay here." And she really didn't want me to leave. But I was set. I said, "No, I'm going to leave." And then my chairperson pulled me in. Now, the chairperson of my department was someone that I really, really admired and respected. And he was the one that interviewed me, or he's the interview anyway that I remember the most when I applied or when I interviewed for residency. And he basically told me he wanted me to stay. And at one point during that year, he actually said to me in front of a group of residents during didactics, he said, he pointed to me and he said, "Do you know why you're here?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "You're here because I wanted you here. I'm the one that picked you. I chose you to be here." And so that really meant a lot to me, because that really showed that he saw something in me perhaps that I didn't see. So when he pulled me into that meeting to basically ask me to stay, I really felt obligated, because he was someone, again, who I really respected and admired. And he's someone who holds actually a lot of clout in the OB world. So I decided to rescind my resignation, and I stayed on. And it was the best decision I ever made. Sorry, I know that was a little long-winded, but...
Well, it's a really interesting story, because I think that, the thing that I learned about you during that time is I was going through very similar stress, but the thing that I admired about you is that it's almost like this bullying type of situation, hazing type of situation. And it's not like they're hazing you to become a better surgeon. They're hazing you just to put you through that process and haze you because they went through it.
Right.
And that's the part that I have a major problem with, right? And I felt like you stood up for that and was like, look, this has nothing to do with how I'm going to do on boards. This has nothing to do with how well I'm going to operate. This has nothing to do with how I'm going to take care of a patient post-operatively. You just don't want me to eat because someone in your training 2 years before that,
correct,
or what have you, wants you to not go through that. And for me, that is... the epitome of just, this is stupid, and it's this cycle that goes on. So I'm going to hurt you because someone hurt me, as opposed to let's just break the cycle.
Right.
And that's something that, I've admired about you. And I think that type of mentality has kind of carried you even up to this point, which is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. Yeah. Let's fast forward a little bit and just talk about, your career now, right? Because, we moved to Central PA. You were working in a kind of like a pseudo academic community based type program.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about that, and the type of community based programming that you wanted to do, but then you decided to leave. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So I thought my career was going to go a totally different way. Really totally different. I wanted to be in academia for probably, I'd say 3 years before I actually decided that I didn't want to be in academia anymore, maybe even a little bit longer. But yeah, we moved to Central PA, and I was employed. I had a permanent employment by a community-based residency program, FP program, actually, a family medicine program. Whereby we basically covered their OBGYN curriculum to some extent. And so I just thought that that's the way that I was going to go. I actually had done a health policy fellowship right after residency and did some locums the year afterwards, came back and actually ran the residency program, the fellowship program, the health policy fellowship program, and then got that position. So I was literally like, okay, well, I guess I'm being groomed to be in academia. And then things changed. They just kind of changed. I think you became a really bad influence on me. What do you think?
People say that a lot, actually. It's true that. But I do think my bad influence kind of opened the well, actually, no, it's reverse, actually. Let's be honest, right? Like you, after residency, you decided to go and do locum tenens.
Yeah,
right?
so...
You decided to do locum tenens, and then
yes.
I was still in training. As a matter of fact, I was in fellowship during that time. And I was in the mindset of, well, I need to go and get this big academic job at this big trauma center. And it just wasn't working out for me. So I decided to do locums. And then since then, I was just like, I really like this way of working.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I actually...
I think we probably influenced each other a little bit because, yeah, like you said, like, so another thing that people don't know about me, all the things that nobody knows about Renee. So when I graduated from residency, I decided that I was not going to... I was the only resident in my class who decided that I was not going to sign any type of contract. I hadn't interviewed or applied for any spots at a hospital or a practice. And so I decided that I was going to do locum tenens. And then in that span of the summer, while I was setting up to get my license, I was going to actually go back to Kansas City and do some locum tenens there. In that span of the summer, I ended up getting the health policy fellowship spot. And so I did my fellowship, and then I did locums on the weekends. So that's how I, ended up starting out with locums. But locums was first introduced to me actually by an attending.
So what are your thoughts on your life now, right? What's the term that we talk about? It's the term that you describe yourself, right? We've kind of kept it in-house. But let's talk about it, because I think it's really interesting how you look at things and how now it affects your life now that we have a son. Even through all the multiple times that we've tried to have children through in vitro fertilization and so forth, you kind of changed your mindset, I guess. So
yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, big time. I think it was headed down this path at some point in time before we even got married. But yeah, I call myself a stay-at-home OBGYN or a stay-at-home doctor, entrepreneur, mommy.
No, but let's let that sink in for a little bit, because I think most of the time you say you're a stay-at-home OB guy.
Yeah,
right?
Most of the time I say I'm a stay-at-home OBGYN.
Now, why do you call yourself that? Because that's interesting. I've never heard that description up until you brought
because
that up.
I stay home most days with my son. However, I still identify as an OBGYN, and I do occasional assignments through locums.
Right. But I think you're leaving out one big thing. So one thing is, prior to that, you were working hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you were working, I was working, and then we had some difficulty with having children.
Yep.
Decided to go the IVF route and had some disappointing rounds, so to speak.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of people can identify with. And then I brought up a big change. And that was one of those things where I was like, is she going to throw something at me? But let's see. But
well, so what Nee is describing is, again, that I was pretty much working as an OBGYN only. We didn't have kids at the time. Again, we were trying, failing. And we did this for about 2.5 years. And finally, Nee said to me, "You need to quit your job." And I was like, "What?" He said, "You need to quit your job." And part of that was because where we live, there are no IVF centers. So there's a lot of traveling that had to be done.
There's no IVF centers in like hour and a half mile radius,
Yeah.
almost 2 hour radius.
2 hour radius, yeah, of here. So there's a lot of traveling that I was doing. It was very stressful. There were days that I was on call and I would sleep maybe 4 hours if I was lucky. But anyway, so he says, "You need to quit your job." And I just was like, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the answer. Well, I thought about it for like 2 weeks. It took me about 2 weeks to think about it. And I think at one point I was on the road. I think at one point I was on the road, and it was one of those times where I was coming from the office, driving 4 hours so that I could get to the IVF center, for the next day, because I would stay at my in-laws' house in New Jersey. And I was on the road, and I finally was like, I have spent how many years studying and training so that I can help other people grow their families. I've done everything that I possibly could to help other people grow their families. Maybe I should just park myself down and do everything that I possibly can to grow mine. And that's when it came to me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. And so I gave my 3 months notice. And we were getting ready to do the next IVF cycle, literally.
Did you use the same resignation letter or something like that from residency?
No.
I think you did. You're just not telling everybody.
So the revolving resignation letter.
Right.
We were scheduled to do another IVF cycle, 3 or 4 days after my last day at work. And my last day of work is when I found out I was already pregnant. With our son.
Naturally.
Free
99.
Free 99.
Which is another show, basically. Talk about why IVF didn't work for us. But anyhow, let's move on.
Yeah, I still don't know why, but it just didn't.
But since then, during that time, once you got pregnant, I also decided to leave my job and just become full locums, which was crazy because you were pregnant and just decided to just do things on our own and stuff. But since then, that we haven't looked back. It has been one of the best decisions I think, we've ever made. You deciding to quit your job and, if anything, focus on trying to have a child. I leaving my job and focusing on trying to, do things from a locum standpoint. And now you call yourself a stay-at-home OB-GYN. So how do you practice now?
Just pure locums. I go into work whenever I want. So I stay home with our son most days, and I pick up assignments here and there. Literally, that's how I do. For a while there, I was a little more consistent. As he's gotten a little bit older, I've become a little less consistent with it. But at one point, I think I was working, 6 to 10 days a month at one point. And now I've kind of slowed that down because he's getting busier. And then we have some other things going on too. But yeah, that's pretty much how I work. And, it's funny because I'm putting him in a lot of different activities, swim class, story time at the library, things like that. And I'm meeting other moms, who are stay-at-home moms as well. And I met this one mom who, I forget exactly what profession she is, but she's got a graduate degree and everything. And she's from Hawaii. She and her husband moved down here not too long ago. And she was saying that she had so much guilt about not using her degree because she stays at home with her daughter. And she was asking me, how I felt about it. And I was like,
I'd like to get your opinion on that one.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I feel no guilt at all.
Yeah, but you wanted to be a doctor since
I don't care.
3. Your parents wanted you to be a doctor, probably. And that's why we started the show like that, right? Like to lay this line of there's all of this stuff laying on you having your osteopathic degree, and look at your face. You give 0 Fs.
I got 0 Fs.
Right.
To give because guess what? I'm still an OBGYN. That doesn't, just because I stay home with my son, that doesn't take anything away from my education, takes nothing away from my training. And I know people are like, but what about your skills? Well, that's why I do locums, right? So, and for me, I feel that, just because you're not using the skill every single day, 120 hours a week, and let's face it, there are a lot of people out there, you are working 80 to 120 hours per week as attendings. I'm just going to put it out there.
Hot take.
Okay. For me, I'm like, how much more skill are you getting? Seriously. Seriously, that's just my question. Now that's very debatable.
Well,
I understand
but I
that.
think there are people who are. I think there's a scale, right? There are people who are looking to do. The more time they spend in a hospital, the more comfortable they feel in their skill and so forth. So I think we got to be careful with that, right? They feel like that's what they need, and then there are people who identify with being an OB, and that's who they are, right?
Right, and that's why I said that's debatable.
That's understandable, right? And so forth.
Yeah.
And then there are people like you who tell us exactly like what your thought process is. Like, where do you fit in that spectrum, right? Because I think everybody has equal justification for why they feel that way or why they do certain things. So I want to know, why do you feel that way, that you feel like, hey, like locums works for me, and if I work part-time, that's good enough, and if not,
then whatever, right?
Right.
Well, because again, for me, and you and I always say, we always say this, but my greatest legacy is actually, I feel, not going to be tied necessarily to my medical career. It would be great if it was, but that is not actually what I'm going for at this point in time. For me, my greatest legacy is going to be my son. And that's very important to me. I don't want to be the doctor who at retirement is complaining that I've missed out on, games and, trophies and awards and things like that. I don't want to be that doctor. I've seen doctors complain about that. I've seen hospitals basically shaft doctors, and then the doctor is like, I can't believe I gave my time to this, just to miss out on life and miss out on my kids. And I just don't want that for myself. And I'm being very intentional about it. And it's not to say that every doctor who works really hard misses out on everything, but I just want to enjoy and savor every single moment with my son. That's extremely important to me. And just as much effort and intention that I put into my career, I feel that my son deserves just as much, if not more, effort and intention.
Well, being a stay-at-home mom is not all you're doing. Like, you're also an entrepreneur. So let's hear more about that. What's the deal with that?
So, as some people may know already, I have my own little side gig called Pre-med Strategies, Inc. And it is a pre-med coaching program. And I wanted to do that actually for a very long time. Had been mentoring students since I was in medical school myself. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And I'm trying to beef up, the programs that I have. I have a few success stories already with students, non-traditional students in particular, getting into medical school after my coaching programs. And, it's been really fulfilling and rewarding for me.
So that's the reason why I brought up the whole triple threat thing. Right?
So what's the one?
Well, 1 is your physician, 2 is your mom, 3 your entrepreneur.
Boom! I just need you to say that.
Right? So you got all those different things going on at the same time. And I think the most important thing that's really interesting, the reason why we brought this up is like, those feelings of mommy guilt, right? Like, I can't relate to that because I'm not a mom. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, do you feel, because now that you're starting to introduce yourself more into work, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel that? Was that ever an issue for you?
The mommy guilt just never was. It really just, it wasn't. I'm a part of different mom groups. I'm mostly a stalker on Facebook with the mom groups. And I just kind of read through posts to see what career women are thinking about when it comes to their kids. What are their feelings about going to work? What are their feelings about how much time they take off for their children? I mean, women, we range, right? We range in the amount of time that we take off from our children for different reasons, whether it's because we want to or whether it's because our jobs are set up that way and we can't afford to take off for our children. But I've seen moms say, literally, I delivered on Thursday and I was back to work on Monday.
What?
Yes. I have seen that.
Oh my God.
Yes, facts.
So
Hashtag
but I
facts.
think you don't think people are exaggerating there.
No, absolutely not. I think people
what kind
do
of
that.
bonding experience do you expect to have with your?
I can't tell you because I
Right.
didn't do it. I can't say that a mother doesn't bond with their child because they went back to work 4 days later. I personally would not do that.
Right.
But there are women who have done that, and I literally have seen that. I delivered on Thursday and was back to work on Monday.
So what's your recommendation? Because the big thing is, well, I can't become a stay-at-home mom because I don't want to lose my skills, or I don't want to make it or I don't want to get to the point where I've taken off so much time that it's hard for me to get re-credentialed. So what have you done to remedy that?
Again, I just do I do locums so that I can quote unquote keep my skills up, right? So I think it's individual, and that's why I said what I said before was, I know it's going to strike a chord with some people. You might get some angry emails.
I always get angry emails.
Well,
a lot of
that's
people don't know that. I get a lot of angry emails.
But that's why I said it was debatable, right? About, okay, well, how much more skill are you possibly getting, And you're right. You're absolutely right. It really depends on that person's comfort level. It depends on, maybe the person is learning a new skill, right? Like maybe they're learning how to work on the robot, let's say, right? So that takes a certain number of cases. Maybe they don't want to give that up, and that takes a lot of time. So it really just all depends. My recommendation is that if you want to stay home with your child, that you just be very intentional about it. And you can set that up either through locums, or you can be per diem at your job. You can become a hospitalist, so that you always have your hands in medicine and you're able to be re-credentialed.
Well, look, we're going to change topics big time and go in a different direction real quick. So, as you know, I'm all about basketball, and I think by association, you've become a basketball fan too. The M.B.A. finals just started today, so who you rooting for? Our boy's not in it right now, so we're big fans of LeBron James. He's got some issues in the soap opera known as the Los Angeles Lakers, but right now it's the Toronto Raptors versus the Golden State Warriors. Who you rooting for?
I do like Golden State. Send angry emails, people. I do like Golden State, but I gotta tell you, I don't want them to win.
Well, I think a lot of people don't want them to win. They're the favorites. They're the Patriots. They're the Yankees now. They are, whatever it is in different sports that people don't really want to see. They're Duke basketball. Like, they're just the perennial, always making it to the championship and winning. So
does that qualify me as a hater?
Yeah, if you're a hater. I'm a hater also.
I drank the haterade.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put it on wax. I think that I think Golden State's going to win in 6, but, I'm not too sure. Like, this is different, though. I think what we're seeing now is this is a different team than what they've used to play, right? They used to playing, LeBron James and a bunch of misfits, right? Let's be honest, right? LeBron James and a bunch of scrubs. Right. So now they're getting a more even balanced team, a team that have some people who can play, some people who've made some all-star teams on their own, not necessarily, within that unit, and they can play basketball. So it'll be interesting to see how this series goes.
I'm laughing because, I always call Shumpert. He's always playing high school basketball. Yeah. I'm like, how did he even make it to the NBA?
It's funny. I think Iman Shumpert is on he's on the Toronto Raptors, actually.
No.
Yeah, I think he's on the Toronto Raptors.
Please say no. I thought he got drafted by Akron High School.
Yeah, I think he's playing in the finals. I think he's just like that guy who's just always going
He's like a coaster.
Yeah.
He is a straight up coaster. I just don't understand. I can't hate on his skills because...
Oh, I'm wrong. Actually, I'm sorry. He's playing for the Houston Rockets.
Oh, thank God.
My bad.
Thank God. I was going to say, if this guy gets another ring on somebody else's back, I'm going to have to rob him in the parking lot.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm putting on. So you're officially saying that you want Toronto to win.
I spent my summers in
Montreal. That's
Montreal.
Way different though than Toronto.
It is, but it's still Canada. Oh, Canada.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to edit that out.
But that's where I spent my summers, was in Canada. So I'm gonna root for Toronto, eh? I'm all about it.
So what kind of podcast do you listen to?
I listen to an array of podcasts. So I do listen to Docs Outside the Box, believe it or not.
You're not obligated to.
I'm not obligated to, and I don't get sneak previews. So, sometimes when people talk about episodes, I'm like, yeah, I didn't hear that one. But I do listen to Docs Outside the Box. I listen to...
Well, I make sure it's always set on auto download, though. I need those downloads.
I listen to Farnoosh Torabi, So Money.
Yeah, it's a good podcast.
I've been picking up Paula Pant's Afford Anything.
That's a good
lately.
one, too.
Yeah, that's a good one. What else? The Duality of Vitality with Dr. Rashana and Dr. Zarina.
Mm-hmm. Those are good ones.
Yeah. A few others. Yeah.
What's your favorite type of music?
My favorite type of music?
Mm-hmm.
Compa.
Compa. What's compa?
Compa is Haitian music. And then Afro beats. And some hip hop.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure.
I'm from Brooklyn.
From
I gotta love hip hop.
Right.
Original hip hop.
What's your favorite movie of
trap.
all time?
I can't get into trap. My favorite movie of all time, Trading Places.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I love that
the
movie.
funny thing is, I remember growing at such a young age and watching Trading Places. I remember...
it's not a kid movie.
I had to be at least 7 or 8 when I saw that movie in New York,
It is not a kid's movie.
I didn't see it in the movie theaters, but when it came out on video, I remember me and my sister were watching it. It was hilarious. Because, back then, Eddie Murphy was the man, right?
Of course he was.
So, he didn't care he was cursing or anything like that, but... My favorite movie of all time is... It's between either Boomerang...
Yeah, I was going to say, which one? No, commit to one today. Commit.
Oh, then it's Boomerang.
Okay.
Yeah, Boomerang with Eddie Murphy.
Okay, because the other one is a close second is
House Party.
House Party.
Yeah, House Party with Kid and Play.
Yep.
Yeah. So look, Dr. Renee.
Wait. Before you go on, I think it's pretty amazing that
First
we
of all,
both
this is my
have.
show. You can't
I
be
understand
cutting me
it's
off
your
on
show.
my own
I'm cutting you off today. But I think it's pretty amazing. See, I was trying to give us a compliment. See? And you just messed it up. But I think it's amazing that both of our favorite movies are Eddie Murphy movies.
There you go. It's like almost serendipity.
Okay. Word of the week.
That's one thing that people don't know about me is that I
have a word of the week.
I have a word of the week. Yes, I do.
Oh man.
Well, look, this was fun. So there you go, audience. You guys got an opportunity to hear from my wife, the triple threat, Dr. Renee. And that's a little bit about her, how she lives her life, and how we work together and how we make it as a team. So if anybody has any questions, we will probably do this again pretty soon because actually we've gotten a lot of questions that people want us to answer as a tandem. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and send your questions to me through Instagram at Dr. Renee Darko. That's DRNIIDARKO on Instagram. Actually, on all social media, it's Dr. Renee Darko. If you want to send it through email, then it's just drnee at drneedarko.com. And we're going to do this again.
Yeah, let's do it again.
I had a lot of fun.
Me too. I like being on the show. Maybe I should be on the show like every...
Yeah, let's... So, guys, we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Remember one thing, we we only got one life. Let's make it count and live outside the box. That's my tagline, please. Peace.